don't soft rock the slide or manipulate the slide in a soft way. But again, if the windows were open and you're like, oh my goodness, these guys are right here, pull your gun out and you're trying to get around in the chamber, yeah, you don't want to make a lot of noise, so you got to figure out how to do that quietly.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes. Our informational content cannot address all dangerous situations and cannot guarantee your survival or prevent injuries when the unexpected happens. The decision to carry a firearm, either for recreation or for personal defense, carries the risk and potential for injury and or death. Therefore, it is advised that you seek out and acquire proper training before using a firearm or any firearm-related product.
What are some self-defense techniques?
What would happen if there was a global internet outage?
What should I do if I hear shots ringing out?
Or what I should do if there's a major terrorist attack?
What should I have? What's the best?
What should I do?
What does that look like?
What would you recommend?
Is there anything I could do?
All right, guys, welcome back to Dangerous Questions, an Ironclad original. Something that's been coming up a lot lately about, this lifestyle, these questions that we're asking, these questions you guys are submitting, the things that come up on a daily basis on our heart and mind that concern us, that we are worried about. A lot of this stuff does take action. I talked about confronting the truth. I talked about being intentional about what you're doing here. And a lot of people know what the right thing to do is. They know they need the training. They know they need these principles, but there's a hesitation. There's almost a lack of courage that occurs when you know you need to make that move, because simply put, we don't have to. Life is pretty comfortable here. You can get by on your day-to-day job and your day-to-day thing and nothing ever happens. But I want to remind you that these things that I'm telling you to take action on, you never need them until you do. They never come up until your life depends on it. And I really don't want you to be the next victim because you chose to take the easier path. Confronting the reality that really exists is important, and it means that you need to follow through with what you're doing. You need to follow through with getting that training, with getting your concealed carry permit, with getting on the mats and making it a part of your lifestyle. Just because I literally care about you. I care about you listening. I care about you that are watching. And ultimately, it comes down to taking that level of accountability. I don't want you to get in a situation that you could have avoided by taking pretty simple steps. Once you apply some of these things to your lifestyle, you're gonna find I should have been doing that a lot longer ago. And I wish I did more sooner, because that scenario, I'm just telling you, is going to pop up, and you're going to look back and say, dang it, I should have done something about it. So just keep that in mind from a personal accountability standpoint, and hopefully that encourages you to think a little bit deeper about the things that you're confronting here that you're listening to, that you need to do, but not taking action on. Make it a priority, guys, because it's important. All right, let's get into the dangerous questions, and let's put the first one up on the board. I was staying at an Airbnb, and something just felt off, like I was being watched. I checked the usual places for hidden cameras, but couldn't shake the paranoia. What are the best ways to detect if you're actually being filmed? And if you find something, what's the right move to handle it safely? Okay, it is kind of an odd place that we're in our culture, right? All these Airbnbs, we're in and we're out, we're visiting. Am I being watched? Am I not being watched? I mean, surveillance has gotten so sophisticated, so small. It's going to be really difficult without any level of training to identify if you are actually being watched or not. For me, first and foremost, guys, I have to take a level of sanity check. And so there's an acceptable risk. I'm not saying it's right by any means whatsoever, but ultimately there's a paranoia and a mindset that ultimately starts to hamstring your ability to live, to do your job, to do what you're supposed to do. And you have to identify if that's getting in the way or not. I mean, look, I don't even want to get into the scenarios that I could think of that something could happen, even if my kids were involved or some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling to contemplate. But I think that there's a reasonability to the level of paranoia that I'm applying to these things. The simple answer is that if the paranoia is affecting your way of life and you're really concerned about this, and you're not wrong, but don't go to an Airbnb. Find something else. Get more creative. I think you'd probably be more secure in a hotel. I think there's other options that you can get. Also, who are you interacting with before you go to the Airbnb? Are you vetting? I mean, the Airbnbs have become very hands-off, right? Aren't the Airbnbs pretty hands-off at this point, where it's pretty much you hit a button, like you don't even meet the people anymore? So keep that in mind, is that there's a lot of the times there's no interaction. I don't Airbnb. I mean, not that I wouldn't, and I've been in them before, but I typically don't. I typically rely on the hotel system to get me where I'm at, because I can be much more random, sporadic, and I feel like it's better to be, my pattern of life is more random doing it that way, as opposed to Airbnb. But I think that you could probably vet where you're going a little bit better. I don't see what the problem is to communicate with the owner of the Airbnb. I mean, can you request that? Is that something you can ask for? Hey, I'd love to stay there, but can we just get on the phone real quick? I have a family. I just want to make sure, I have a couple of questions about our stay. And I think that you could probably use your intuition to get a pretty good idea if this is somebody that's going to be a concern. And again, they can have managers and do things like that. And it's hard to detect every type of evil that's out there, because people can just look like regular people and be really messed up. So I think you just need to weigh that in your own life of the reasonability, the paranoia, the way of life that you're choosing, and just ask yourself if it's worth it. To me, it's not worth the feeling of being paranoid. I don't want to look over my shoulder every second. So how can I live and change something a little bit differently so that I can mitigate that concern? I think that's probably the main thing there. And if you did find something, to me, if it's out of place and it's not right, if it's an internal camera that is literally being used for some type of surveillance, I'm probably going to call some type of authority or some type of enforcement, to report this immediately and say, hey, this is something I found. I'm going to go and, report it to somebody and make this known and record the fact that you're finding that. And, to me, I mean, geeking out with this, if I found a camera sticking out of the wall and I'm like, okay, well, let me trace that. Is this active? And I pull it out and it's on a transmitting device. Well, now I know it's being transmitted somewhere else, maybe to a Wi-Fi or something else, then it's being recorded elsewhere. I mean, that's a bigger problem, right? As opposed to an isolated recorder. That might be geeking out a little bit too deep for the average person, but it still matters. And it does matter to how I would want to handle that situation. But I think for the majority of people, it's like report it right away and figure out what's going on. There's going to be some type of investigation. I'm sure you could probably look up scenarios. What happened when somebody found surveillance in an Airbnb? You probably get some type of feedback and look at a case study of how to handle it. That's going to give me knowledge of lessons learned, things to do, and things to apply in the future. So kind of a longer answer, but again, these things take context, but clearly it's not legal to put any type of surveillance in a home where you're Airbnb or renting, right? That's a privacy issue. Now we need to look at why are they doing it? And clearly that's breaking the law. There's going to be things to pay for if somebody gets caught doing that. And it's completely unjust and right to do. I mean, there's a level of evil there, right? That somebody, why are they surveilling the inside of the home? What are they trying to gain? Then you get into a whole nother set of questions, which I'm sure you guys can, use your own brains on that. Okay, next question. Dom, I need your advice. The other night around 2 a.m., I was dropping my girlfriend off at home when a car pulled up across the street looking suspicious. A man got out with a rifle, and then a second car arrived with 2 more armed men. I had my Glock 19 with me, but when I tried to soft rock the slide, it jammed. My hands were sweaty, which made it even harder to clear. Not wanting them to see where my girlfriend lived, I decided to drive away. Should I be worried they saw my car? And what can I do to be better prepared if I ever face a situation like that again? Okay, my first question in this is well, what happened? Do we have this guy's contact? Was there a news article? Was somebody getting robbed? Where was this? Was your girlfriend next to a 7-Eleven? What's going on here? There's a lot of questions I have. But if I isolate the scenario, first of all, you're soft racking the slide. Why? Why are we soft racking the slide? My guess is that you're not carrying with a round in the chamber. Why? Why are you not carrying around in the chamber? It seems to me that you don't have a high level of training that makes you comfortable with doing that. I don't know of any legalities that exist with everyday carry or concealed carry that would tell you that you can't carry with a round in your chamber. I don't think that exists. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think that's the case. So that tells me that you're lacking in your training and your confidence, which your hands are sweaty. It made it hard to clear. When you soft rock the slide, this is why we always say when we do a tap rack malfunction, we rip the slide. So were your windows open? Were you afraid about making noise? There's a lot of questions I have to this. Just so you guys know that are listening, I'm just going to break this down from the principal tactic of the scenario, okay? I'm not going to isolate these what ifs because there are a lot that I have here. Grow your confidence with your firearms platform, right? Get the training that you need, and this goes back to what I said in the beginning of this video. If you're confronting the reality of that this is a situation that you're even in, look, this is, you don't need it until you do, but this happened to you. Now you know this exists, so I hope that from the time you ask this question to me answering this, that you've gone out and got some type of training immediately. There was a guy I trained with in one of our courses that had just had a gun held to his head, never trained in his life. He's like, I never want that to happen again. Here I am at your course. I was like, oh, hey, everybody in the class. This guy actually had a gun held to his head and he didn't know what to do. The guy took his money, his keys, took everything from him. Anyway, isolated. Didn't need it till he did, then he took action. I hope you've took action since this point. So you got to grow your confidence. Racking the slide, learning how to clear malfunctions. It made it hard to clear because your hands were sweaty, you were a little bit nervous, you lacked the confidence and courage that you needed. That comes with exposure training, fitness, visualization, mindset, fortitude, temperance, all those things that we can work on, that when we get in the fight, we are going to be better prepared to be a warrior and take action in that moment. Okay, I think you did the right thing. Should you be worried they saw your car? Yeah, I would be. I don't think it's a major concern because they were clearly focused on something else. You were not the object in that scenario, were you? Or else the guns would have been trained on you. And this was the scenario we talked about before the episode started because I was breaking this down. What if my kids were in the car? Or what if something happened in the scenario? You can be better prepared by taking action, getting to the range, working your manipulation, clearing malfunctions, doing all those things that you felt that you needed to do in that moment. If you haven't trained on them yet, you're wrong. You need to expose yourself to that as much as possible. Okay, you did the right thing by driving away. The focus wasn't you. Break contact, get out of there. You don't want anybody to know where your girlfriend lives or draw any attention to yourself in that situation. Move off the X. Now, if it was her girlfriend's house, what house did they go into? This is what I'm asking. Like, there was something further. There was another follow-up. But please, if you watch this, can you reach out to us? dq.podcast @thisisironclad.com. So send us an email if you listen to this because I want to further talk about this scenario. I want to learn more about this as well. But ultimately, it comes back to what I've been saying, and hopefully you listen to it. It's like you got to get better trained. You got to increase your confidence, know how to clear those malfunctions. Don't soft rock the slide or manipulate the slide in a soft way. But again, if the windows were open and you're like, oh my goodness, these guys are right here, pull your gun out and you're trying to get around in the chamber. Yeah, you don't want to make a lot of noise. So you got to figure out how to do that quietly. Rack it back, start going forward. Oh, okay, the round gets jammed up. It doesn't want to move forward. Well, what do? Well, pull the mag out a little bit, wiggle the slide to get it to seat all the way forward, put the mag back in and get to work. Or if they're on you and you need that round, it might be time to rack around. There's a lot of scenarios we could go into if you were the target, but we'd be here for another 20 minutes breaking that down. So you asked the question, again, I'm going to say this for like the 5th time. Make sure you're training and growing your confidence. So if you needed to do something in that scenario, you weren't sitting there trying to have sweaty hands figuring out what you were supposed to do. That's why you've got to lean into breaking down these trainings and get scenario reps as much as possible.
Ironclad creates premium content no matter the environment. From extreme elements to unforgiving terrain, we thrive on crafting content that captures the essence of your brand in the most challenging conditions. Bring your brand story to life, ensuring your message leaves an impact. Ready to elevate your vision? Connect with us today at ironcladagency.com.
All right, next question. I was out to dinner with my wife and a dude started hitting on her. I was so scared to say anything, so I just let it happen. Now I feel like she's lost trust in me and is embarrassed of me. And I'm embarrassed of myself too. What should I do? Thank you for the courage to bring this up. I'm glad that you're asking me. But ultimately, the heart in these scenarios, you know the right answer. You know, us as men, with our wives and our children and our significant others and our family, we have to be confident enough to stand in the gap. Our job is to protect and to provide for the women and the children in our life. There is no exception to that rule. There is not. God has bestowed a duty on us as men to be the protector and the provider. That protection comes in many different forms: physical, spiritual, and even emotional, right? There are 3 things that I need to do to make sure my wife knows she has confidence in me. What I always say, breaking this down at its core, is that I want to be an asset for my family. I want to be an asset for my children. I should be irreplaceable so that when I'm not in the room, it sucks not to have me there. It sucks to not have my wife be like, man, where's my husband where he can protect me and lift something heavy for me or fix this thing in the garage or get the kids to, have more discipline. It's like she should feel the weight of me being gone, and the same thing with my children. In this moment, I know you have a very specific question, right? What should I do? But in this moment, you were not an asset, and you need to become more of an asset. You need to grow your confidence. I don't care how big a dude is. I don't care how tough somebody is. I am not going to let the dignity, spirit, and emotion of my wife become attacked and do nothing, because ultimately you have to decide, what are you willing to lay down your life for? And in that moment, you weren't willing to lay down your wife for your life. And Christ calls us to love our wives like Christ loves the church and to be willing to lay down our life for them. So I think that's something you just need to pray on and take to your heart of hearts and really just pour yourself into. What am I doing? Am I being a good provider and protector of all these things under my roof? That is your job. That is your main duty in life. There is nothing more important to you. There is nothing more important. So I hope what you do after this is start figuring out ways that you can make a radical change to start making yourself the man that your wife needs, right? And let her see, this is not somebody I should be embarrassed of. This is somebody that I love and appreciate, because I know that no matter what, he's going to say something. And even in our own way, look, God has a different plan for everybody. And even if you're out of shape, you're not tough, and you got the toughest dude in the world sitting there giving your wife a hard time, you at least are willing to stand in the way. Maybe nothing happens, maybe it does, but you stood for something. So even if you lose your life in that moment, you were able to stand for what you believe in. And I think we're missing that in today's day and age. We're missing men willing to lay down their life for something greater than themselves. So I hope that after this, you just pray on what that is for you, and you start making steps towards being the asset and man that the people need in your life. We all should be striving to that, even in our own way, in whatever way that is. Maybe it's intellectually, maybe it is physically, maybe we have a disability that doesn't even allow us to get up and stand in somebody's face, but at least have the mental fortitude to be like, excuse me, that's my wife, like, don't talk to her like that, and find a way to mitigate it in an intellectual way or a spiritual way, or I don't know, like, hey man, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, can we talk about Jesus? Something that redirects his energy might work, but there's something that we can do. The wrong answer is to do nothing. All right, next question. I've been a fan for a long time, and I've watched your progression. Clearly, you're in a different headspace than when you first became a public figure. Can you tell me the key factors that inspired that change and how I can make steps towards them? Okay, so what we're doing is distilling down key factors that allowed me to really be at the point that I'm at today, mentally, physically, and spiritually, versus when I was coming out of the military. And I am in a different headspace. The first key factor that should be no surprise to anybody listening or watching is that my faith has grown tremendously. In God, in my love for God, in my love for my neighbor, and really in the love for myself, right? That's what changes in knowing how to love ourselves. I think that even that comment or statement could be construed and just looked at in such a negative way, or people want to make fun of that, or, loving yourself. I'm like, that is anything but, right? It's biblical to understand that God's love for us teaches us how to love ourselves, which ultimately teaches us how to love others. If we can't do that in right order, man, we are going to struggle with being able to do that for other people. That is really one of the biggest factors that allowed me to grow, is recognizing that foundation in faith. And then it's just allowed me to explode in other areas of my life. The other thing is, everything's based off of that first thing, but it's putting things in the right priority. I'm in a different headspace because I can put things in the right priority. I often tell people that when it comes to spending time with my children or my wife or my family, I'm kind of willing to let everything burn to the ground. My business, anything that's a hobby or a thing that's out there, because I have to have that level of intentionality, because they need me that much. And if I don't say that out loud, then I'm willing to put something else up as an idol that's going to cause challenges between me and my children and me and my wife. They need to know they come first. Even though, as a man, part of my job and part of my life is a duty to work for a living, to provide for my family, to put food on the table, to give other people care. And like I said before, provide and protect my family. That takes a level of work. Right? It's good to work. It's good to engage. It's good to get out there and do something. Find your talents, explore them to the best of your ability, but they have to be in the right order. And your family needs to know without a doubt, your 3-year-old, your 10-year-old, your 20-year-old, your wife, they need to know without a doubt that you'd be willing to walk away from any of it for them. I think that's a key factor in why things have changed for me so much. And also just trying to lead with a servant's heart. I mean, I trip over myself every day and do not do that perfectly, but I do try to help people. I want the best for people in life. It's challenging. It is very, very challenging walking through this life. I was at a hotel the other day and I was loading my truck up and I had my door open because I had just put some stuff in the driver's seat, whatever it was, my teacup, and then I was in the back putting some other stuff, organizing my gear for the day because I was getting ready to go do a retreat. And I mean, it couldn't have been more than 15 seconds that I was standing there, but my door was open and it was blocking the other person's door that was trying to get in the car. And I was just organizing this stuff and I kind of saw her approach in the mirror and she was so pissed and disgruntled at me, simply because my door was just in the way of her door. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like people are walking around with such angst and so much anger. I immediately prayed for her. I was like, God bless you in the name of Jesus. Like, she needs to feel some type of love, but it's hard to engage with people like that. Where do you start? Where do you start with communicating with people? And I know we all struggle with that, whether it's road rage or dealing with people at work or on our team. I mean, there are things that we have to, think about, but I think in that situation, maybe 15 years ago, I would have just been pissed off too. She would have pissed me off. I would have got her more upset. She would have yelled at me, tossed me the finger, and we would have just went back and forth and accomplished absolutely nothing. We would have accomplished nothing. So I think for me, it's just, I've changed because I know that is going to accomplish nothing. The best thing I could do is pray for her and love her through that scenario. And ultimately, she drove away upset. Hopefully she had a better day, but I think we go through things like that, and it's just, you got to learn. A key factor ultimately is to learn what's worth your energy, what's worth your time. So many people get pissed on the way to work and their whole day sucks because of it. But what did you accomplish? You accomplished nothing. You put your energy in the wrong place and you just worked yourself up for no good reason. And that energy could have been better spent putting intentionality at work, loving your family, taking care of your teammates, and everything like that. So those are just a couple of the key factors that's really changed me. Faith outweighs all of it. So really me going into second and tertiary, things I don't think is going to really be beneficial, but for the sake of time, that's the majority of them. So anyway, great question and a lot more to talk about, but thank you. All right, that wraps up this episode of Dangerous Questions, guys. Thank you so much. Ironclad guys crushing away, making sure you guys are connecting with me and I'm able to give you guys some feedback. I'm humbled by it. I'm honored to be able to give you guys some feedback and some skills that you can apply to your lives. Remember, continue to become an asset for yourself and your family. Be irreplaceable. There's nothing greater than having someone in the room that it sucks without them there. God bless you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
For the past 15 years, we've been known as the turnkey branded content company, right? That means that we take brand and content to the next level. So if you're Garmin and you want us to shoot your new watch at the side of a cliff in the middle of Colorado, we source the location, we get the permits, we find the talent, we get the side-by-sides. We make everything happen for a world-class piece of branded content. And that's really where we've kind of cut our teeth. And about 5 years ago, we launched Ironclad Originals as the second part of Ironclad. So you've got the branded content on one side, and you've got Ironclad Originals. And what Ironclad Originals is, intellectual properties by way of franchises that can start as a podcast, build an audience, and develop into a film or series that can be licensed or purchased by a major streaming platform. So to date, we've launched 8 Ironclad Originals. Every one of them has topped the charts on Spotify and Apple and have grown to today over 5 million downloads a month. We're doing partnerships with Warner Brothers, major sporting networks, and many, many other brands to bring their product to our audience by way of our podcast. Now, you may have seen some of our podcasts with Andy Stumpf, Vincent Vargas, Dom Rosso. We're launching 4 more this year. So these Ironclad Originals are going to continue to evolve, continue to grow, and by the end of this year, our target is to have 10 million unique audience members on the Ironclad Original platform. Now, these two sides of Ironclad are really yin and yang to one another, and you can come in on either side of that. One note is, the branded content and the original content has come together for one more unique offering called a brand podcast. We've taken all of our expertise on the Ironclad Original side, mixed with the service-based business of the branded content, and now we're providing branded podcasts. That's a turnkey podcast that we can launch from 0 to full scale within 60 days. And we'll do 52 weeks of unique content where we build the studio, build the brand, book the guest, edit the shows, host the shows, engineer the shows, take everything that makes an Ironclad Original unique, apply it to a brand, and build owned content for our brand partners that can take a brand to a whole nother level. As we close this out, I just want you to think, this is something that you should be doing, whether it's with or without Ironclad. We truly believe that you should be creating brand podcasts. We truly believe you need the best branded content in the world. We truly believe you need a partner that can tell your story at an elite level. Okay, so this is something that you need to be doing with or without Ironclad. But one thing about Ironclad is that we are drinking our own Kool-Aid. We believe in this so much, we're investing in originals. We are testing the waters. We have the connections happening on this side of the house. We're proven and tested on the brand side. And we promise that if you come to us, we will bring all those resources together and bring them to you. And we will be an extension to your team to make you operate at an elite level. So those are the things that we're offering here at Ironclad. We're so excited. Thank you so much for all your support. We love you all.